All right, welcome back, everyone. We are back now for our second session of the day. Welcome back to PDMI East. I'm Tom Hare, the Chief Content Officer of the PDMI. We welcome everybody in. Very glad to have you all here. We thank all of you for attending. We thank our sponsors, most particularly. We thank our education sponsor, Bluewater, represented by Andy Latimer on stage right now. Bluewater is now sponsored education, I believe, at 4 consecutive shows. I think that's,
Sounds about right.
That's right. And so we say thank you for your support. Your team has shared a video. We'll play it now, and then we'll hand it off to you.
I'm incredibly proud to be the official protein bar of NASCAR.
Are you looking for an on-the-go
I
travel
feel like
snack?
my stuff. Life even
Oh,
works.
man. Get yours
It really
today.
works.
It's better on a Blackstone.
Andy, take away. Thank you.
All right, how you guys doing today? I'm Andy Latimer, CEO, founder of Bluewater. We are a vertically integrated marketing advertising agency, worked with a ton of great brands, been around for a while. Today we're gonna be talking about long-form reimagined. Ultimately, because of what's happened in the market, but how content is distributed, it's caused some fragmentation in the interruptive ad models. It's good for those of us in the performance space, not so good for a lot of other brands that are trying to do much more of an upfront approach. Creates challenge for some of the networks that are out there. So it also creates great opportunities. So we're gonna talk about some of the opportunities ahead of us today. Got a great panel with us, all the way from over on this side, Doug Campbell. He's SVP of Revenue and Brand Partnerships at Bluewater. 30+ years of experience doing brand integrations, probably more brand integrations than anybody you'll ever meet on the planet. Seen every iteration of it and can't wait to hear some of the commentary we have right there. Kelsey Murphy, who is the Senior Marketing Manager for Safe Catch. Great brand dealing with all kinds of seafood products, safely caught, safely distributed. Wonderful. She actually is on the brand side of it, so can talk about how brand integration works, what's the brand goal in the side of it, and how those things start to function. And then Chris Knight, who's the president and CEO of Gusto TV. Gusto TV is a food network based in Ottawa, Canada, but in 160 countries. I don't know exactly how many streaming platforms you're on.
57.
57 streaming platforms, full distribution of cable in Canada and as well throughout the US. Awesome panel. So, let me set up the problem, because we all like problem solution here, right?
Yep.
Let me first ask this. How many people in here are with an agency? How many are content creators? And how many are just straight brand marketers? All right. There's not a lot of response. What do all you guys? Just kidding. So part of the problem that we're seeing in the market today, right, when you start to really think about the platforms, that disruption that has occurred, because if you think about the way content was distributed before, and then ultimately everything moved to streaming fairly quickly, right? And everything then ultimately moved to subscription-based models. Those subscription-based models created a vacuum in the space. So it created fragmentation of how audiences are finding your content. So they're finding it in all kinds of different places, right? Not just traditional means. If we could go back to the days where there was just, from a marketing standpoint, if there was just one channel, then everybody watched it, right? It'd be great and easy. This has caused rising acquisition costs, customer acquisition costs, cost per order going up. It's caused a battle in finding exactly where you have to distribute your product, or distribute your brands, distribute your commercials. And it's created declining trust in ads. So people are looking for more authentic connection. The fourth, I think, really big factor that we're gonna talk about here is how short form saturation, like how many people get fed short form content constantly on their phone? How many people are annoyed with it? How many people love it? There you go. So there's a mix in that space, but that saturation changes the dynamic of how people engage with brands. So philosophically, we're at a point where we feel like there's a transition happening. So I'm gonna open up on this side to you guys, and let's talk about the status of where the market is from first, how do you, as a network, look at the market today when you're sitting here and you've got all this ad time and there's fragmented distribution points? How does a network look at it from that perspective about what's happening from traditional advertising and why brand entertainment and brand integration is important for the future?
Thank you for the question. So, dots and spots. We've been selling them forever. And brand integration and sponsorship is really the way of the future for us. We're a bit of a white buffalo in that we produce 100% of the content that you see on the channel. So we produce everything. This year, I'm working on shows for 2027 right now. So we have an opportunity to sit down with brand partners and really find out what's important to them, the subtext, the value proposition of their brands, and to be able to weave that in seamlessly into the creative of the show without compromising the creative of the show. So there's a great opportunity for a relationship, and we do food programming, which lends itself by the nature of the genre to like pretty significant brand integration opportunities.
So from a brand perspective, Kelsey, the challenge that we're facing for brands is this fragmentation of the media platform is going on. What do you think of from a brand side of like, how do you get to your audience? How do you tell your story effectively? And how do you get really results in the end?
So from a brand's perspective, it's how can we get in front of a potential customer and how can we garner that relationship with them? And so it's short form. It's brand integration with long form video, but how do we garner their attention in that immediate 15 seconds while you're scrolling, right? Or if you see an ad, do you resonate with that ad? So from my perspective with Safe Catch, it's authenticity. We lead with authenticity. We lead with, education and facts, but like you mentioned, recipe content grabs attention really, really quickly. So from looking at it from a video perspective, if we can get your attention in that first 15, 20 seconds and you watch that video all the way through, can we then get you to click to watch a longer video, whether that YouTube or whether you see us on a TV show or what that looks like, and then how do we get you to go in store to purchase? Right? So in order for us to quantify what that customer looks like, we have to be authentic and we have to resonate with you in some way to get you to continue that journey.
Well, so I think it leads to the point where we've gone from an interruptive model, right? That's purely interruptive, which by the way, we've all made a lot of money on interruptive ads. So we're pretty happy with the model up until now. But now we're in a point where interruption is moving to entertainment, right? Traditionally, you had less channels to worry about. You had less distribution path to worry about. You didn't have as complicated media matrix or media modeling that you had to do. So now we sit in a situation with, and now as networks are no longer, aren't commissioning as much work, commissioning as many shows, how do you then start to get that move that's gonna get you from then, which was traditional, limited channels, minimal data, one-way messaging, to all this scale where you're dealing with linear TV and broadcast, you're dealing with fast channels, streaming platforms, YouTube and social. Right. YouTube's 13% of the entire viewing audience of what's actually viewed is YouTube and growing. So step back from that for a minute and go, oh shit, like what just happened, right? And then if you start to think about how videos comply in your entire universe of how a show happens and how people engage from your e-commerce marketplace side of it, how your CRM and first-party data all comes through. So Doug, you've been at this game for a long time, literally since last century.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, just checking.
Probably last century.
You founded it, right?
Yeah.
So
Pioneer.
how has this brand integration world moved, and how we've moved from interruptive models into into the entertainment side of it, and how's that affecting the the world today?
First of all, it's a really exciting time for branded entertainment. I've seen it, 3 decades, and where we're rolling into is an amazing time. The mindset has to shift with the brand. So we're at a place where they have to start to think and create a framework and a strategy that's towards entertainment first. A lot of the thinking has been obviously leading with the brand. And just a quick example, just last week, dealing with a fairly large brand for one of our cooking shows currently, a charcoal brand, not to mention any names, but it was a great conversation because they're at a point where they have come to a decision that they have to be more relevant. And I'm hearing that more probably than anything in the brand conversations I'm having today is, how do I get into discussion? How am I part of the discussion? How am I culturally relevant? And you're starting to hear that more than ever today with brands, which is exciting because there's a huge opportunity for them to be more relevant.
But I think a key point here too, and I think we hit on it, and Kelsey, you hit on it as well, it's authenticity, right? So it's so much more about building communities and followings and people that are connected effectively with your brand in an authentic way. And the other challenge here is there are huge opportunities to distribute television shows that are brand integrated that you can even own ad inventory in and do your calls to action and your trigger points associated to it, right? But it really does have to be authentic, or the network's going to tell you, yeah, no. So speak a little bit about the importance of authenticity in the content and from a standpoint of what's a good brand integration and what's a good brand, branded entertainment show.
Sure. So, I mean, the first thing is don't compromise the integrity or the creative of the product.
Right.
So it's not about, well, okay, so here's the thing. I have a secret weapon I'm going to share with you guys now, okay? It's something that no other genre of television has.
It's right behind his chair. Just kidding.
We shoot our programs on Red Cam,
Okay.
the same camera that they shot Star Wars on, okay? So I can make your pupils dilate. We can make your mouth water and your tummy rumble. We can make you hungry. And when we make you hungry, that's an emotional response. And that is, we're always looking for ways to build relationships with the viewers. If you watch Gusto, and if you're not, why aren't you? You'll see that in every act of every show is a QR code. And people hold up their phones, sitting on the couch, and we send them the recipe. We do that almost 20,000 times a month. Now that's a relationship with the viewer. And so with our brands, they're part of the menu, they're part of the recipe, they're part of the show, they're part of the short form content that we put out on all of our social platforms. They're part of the app that we have. We have about 300,000 downloads on our app. They're part of our newsletter. We have 65,000 subscribers to our newsletter. So it's an integration part of it to try and keep the whole thing honest. Authentic is a word that's really sort of popped up. Everyone's using the word authentic right now.
I like honest.
Yeah, we got to come up with something other than authentic. Yeah.
So I used to say in all the shows, and I've done a lot of food shows, from the Philips air fryers to the smokeless indoor grills to KitchenAid and you name it, every pan I can possibly think of in my life. And if I never do a pan show again, don't be mad at me, but I never actually want to do a pan show again. But the secret to all of them is that steak cut. When you cut the steak and you cut it a certain way and you press down on the top of it and that juice rolls out and it makes the mouth water, that's always when I said that's when we do the call to action, right then.
Yep.
Make their mouth water and then associate the mouth watering. It's Pavlovian. If I can make your mouth water and attach you to a product or attach you to a call to action or attach you to a trigger, in what Chris is saying in his world is I'm going to attach you to get the recipe. What happens after they get the recipe? All the products served up, all the integrations, the ability to buy special deals, promo relationships, future hell. I'm pretty sure in the future, Chris is going to be shipping food right to the door, the full recipe right out of the grocery, right?
Yep.
So from a brand standpoint, I think there's the importance of that piece of making sure that it's authentic. And then you have to also think about all of the content that you need to create around it, because you're creating that top funnel that they're getting in your universe. And if they get in your universe, you can start to generally cultivate that customer. The big question I have now is, what are the brands doing wrong? That's the big question.
A lot. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for growth and trial and error. And, we get a lot of things wrong before we get a lot of things right. So we may test a short form video that doesn't generate any views or any engagement. We may create a recipe that is way too advanced for the everyday, mom or husband or wife or whomever who's cooking dinner. But I think from the entertainment perspective, we're getting it wrong by not trying more things. And so for Safe Catch most importantly, we had never done long-term video in form of TV before connecting with Bluewater and Griddle Nation. And something that we have been talking about is it's not just going to live, the internet's forever, right? Like everything is forever. You can't put something up and then take something down and then not expect somebody to see it, right? And so you've got to create that customer by awareness driven marketing, and you need eyeballs on your product. And so it's testing different avenues of marketing and of video content and of long form and short form. So that's something that SafeCatch has done with Bluewater and Griddle Nation, and we're very excited to see. Our episode has not aired yet, but the conversation around it has generated so much awareness that we're tying ourselves with brands that we aspire to be or that we want to level up to be, right? Like Blackstone is a huge, household name. I want SafeCatch to now be a household name in tandem with Blackstone. So if you're looking at a Blackstone product and you're like, oh, I loved that episode, I think I remember seeing them on there, and you already cultivate that positive relationship with Blackstone, you're gonna be like seeing SafeCatch in your grocery store and saying, oh yeah, Nate and CJ cooked with that on their latest episode. Or, if it's a recipe video or recipe piece of content you've seen on Gusto because you use the QR code, it's that constant subconscious realization that, okay, SafeCatch is connected with Blackstone, that's connected with Gusto, and I remember seeing them on Instagram, or I may have gotten an ad for them, and it's just that continuous cycle that I don't think we're getting it wrong. We're not testing enough.
So I think you bring up a big point here, right? When you start to bring all these brands together, and I think everybody forgets that brands are like celebrities in the end. And you take an audience builder like Blackstone that has thousands and thousands and hundreds of followers and millions upon millions of views. And you marry that with brands that are in the show, like SafeCatch, like Graza, like Mission Foods. And that cross-pollination of the brands working together also causes you to have additional growth in-channel on your main shows and integration, but also off-channel where you're dealing with your distribution, your social, your engagement, everything on the backside of it. Talk a little bit about that importance of how the brands work together from that standpoint.
Yeah. So it's really this value by association with the brands and how they come together and how they elevate each other. And I want to go back real quick because one of the things that last slide reminded me a little bit was when working with the brands, in era 2 here, it's really where branded entertainment kind of got to start. And the thing here, though, is it was instantaneous. So we were doing infomercials, we were doing DRTV, but they were instant results. And it was really, really hard to weave in brand entertainment because that didn't exist. And we didn't know what to call it because it was not an infomercial. And it migrated to product placement, it migrated down the path. And today, because of technology, we're able to talk to the consumer. We're able to have a conversation with the consumer. We're close to the consumer, and this is what's happening. So where brands are struggling, I think it's 2 areas. One, today it's a longer play. To build a community is not happening overnight. And we came from, it needs to happen overnight, and we just have to have that mindset. It's gonna take a minute to do that. And number 2, the brands need to take a back seat. You cannot be forced on a show. You can't be contrived on a show. And when they learn to do that, they're going to have a much better opportunity of success because those shows can live on. And it's that mindset right there, those 2 things that are really going to help with the brand.
We're going to get into a little bit how they live on because as you start to distribute these shows, they can be network, syndication, all the streaming platforms everywhere. And what we're seeing now is the evolution of branded entertainment even beyond it, to a content to commerce model, because now with activation points that networks wouldn't allow you to do before, calls to action embedded inside the show in meaningful ways. Yes, they're sneaky a little bit, let's be honest. I'm gonna take you to the recipe and then I'm gonna sell you some products. I say advertising is the most honest profession in the world because we have a very clear relationship. I'm selling you something, you're buying something, that's the relationship, right? I think as we're moving in this content to commerce world, it's really fun to watch and fun to be part of from that standpoint. So what you're really asking is, what does this really look like in practice, right? Let's talk a real world example of this. I'm going to go ahead and hit this and let it go ahead and play. And hopefully there's audio, because this is way better with audio, guys. I'm just going to say. Doesn't nearly have the impact without it.
This isn't just a cooking show. It's a way of life.
I'm Nate.
And I'm CJ.
And this is Griddle Nation.
Celebrating the legendary online cooking community by bringing their creations to televisions all around the world. Over 160 countries, in more than 100 million households, and across countless major platforms.
I made 2 burgers because I'm a friend. You made 2 because you were worried about burning one. Up top.
With thousands of ad spots dedicated to Blackstone per month. Not to mention a full funnel content ecosystem designed to drive action. And brand collaborations that amplify Blackstone's reach.
I love Blackstone. It makes everything a little bit crispier. Perfection.
30 episodes, over 100 million impressions, and a legacy that lasts forever.
Mine looks so much better than yours.
So what is this show? It's a 30-episode series. So I'm going to say it. It's not an infomercial. It's not an infomercial. It's not an infomercial. It is entertainment. It just happens to have learnings of an infomercial. It has the things that you would want to see in a show. 30 episodes, you're going to see sizzle. You're going to see steaks on it. You're going to see the steak cuts. You're going to see all the things that Chris talks about making it work. And you have distribution across the platform. So 30 episodes in a syndicated series airing right now, started out on Gusto TV, RFD, 8.8 million combined creator social reach built into it already, and owning the ad inventory of 2 to 4 minutes. What do you do with the 2 to 4 minutes? What do we do with the 2 to 4 minutes, Doug?
So it's start, you said it, let's start from the top. So we have to lead at the beginning, we have to lead with entertainment. We're not selling anything, but we are selling though as a lifestyle actually. So if we're selling anything, we are selling a lifestyle. But entertainment is gonna lead to engagement and engaging this community. This community is a community of fanatical, griddle, recipe-loving people that we were able to actually have collaborations with influencers that sent recipes in. We got to reimagine them, but they were involved in the program. And the collaborations weren't just the influencers, but we also with the brands. And I know we showed the video, and Kelsey was on a video actually that was up there, but we also did some food recipe videos outside of the show, kind of this value envelope, to help promote the series as well. So influencers and brands collaborating together in the show. But again, the brands that we worked with on the program was very clear up front, you know, how we're going to integrate them into the show. We had some amazing brands on the program that we were able to work with, creating amazing content, amazing recipes. So at the end of the day, it really was a culturally relevant show. If you think about it, there's probably a lot of people in this room that have a Blackstone griddle, because the fact is people love to cook on this thing, and it captured that.
So the idea is you start to get into it and you say, okay, what are we creating? It's a bespoke cultural phenomenon of cooking on a flat top. Chris, when you guys got the show and you started, cutting it and editing it, and you're looking at it, and your team, your producers, and they're looking at it, did you feel like it was a brand selling something at all?
No, not at all. And we're really excited about doing this particular project with you guys and other projects in the future, but we would have turned it down cold if we thought it compromised our brand by being too selly. Our brand is as important to us as yours are to you, and I will defend my brand with my life. Now,
trust me, he will.
The thing about Gusto, and lifestyle channels in general, we're a sticky channel. So our average view time in the United States of America is 78 minutes. Dramatic pause. 78 minutes is our average view time. People turn Gusto on and they leave Gusto on. Now, the big difference here is, I guess when it was infomercials, If you didn't have a brand paying the freight, the infomercial did not get made. We're going to make 100 hours of programming this year, diverse programming, everything from a show called Nine and Dine, which you golfers probably know, to studio programs about Italian cuisine and everything in between. Those shows are going to get made anyway, whether or not your brand is participating in the show.
Right.
So the price of entry to be a sponsor or to be integrated in the show is way lower than paying the freight for an entire production for an infomercial, which we wouldn't run anyway.
And then you're also not paying for the infomercial ad time.
Right.
So this is a shift from the traditional means of how to get shows out there. And by the way, I'm not telling you long form infomercials don't still work. They do. We still make them. If you look at the list, we have 2 of the top 10 on the list right now. So of the DR Metrics rankings. So we're still very much in that business. From a standpoint in the other shows you see here, I'll just hit on those real quick. We started this path with Lost In. We said, hey, it's a travel series, brand integrated travel series. Can we distribute it? What's going to happen? 91 million households later, into the second season. Yes, you can distribute it. Yes, you can get the airtime out there. Yes, you can do inventory share deals all over the place. And you can get mass reach. The Carve Off is a chainsaw carving competition show that has brand integration all throughout it. Brand funded. And oh, by the way, the networks are licensing this show. So the brand integrated, and the network wants to license it and pay for the license to air the show. Have you ever had your commercial paid for by the network? Never. So we're entering a new space. So from a brand perspective, when you start to see, and by the way, with Griddle Nation, and I'm bringing it back home to that one because Kelsey and her company's, right there in it, right? Safe Catch is in it. This is just the start. We started airing last week. All right, you can watch it tonight on Gusto. But once you start to see this first part of the distribution, and the distribution will grow over the next time to where you're airing in syndication across all these stations and across the planet. Imagine the number of impressions, imagine the number of response opportunities and response mechanisms are going to be in there. What does it mean for a brand to know that there's long tail in this?
So when I pitched this originally to our executive team, it was a hard sell. I'm not going to lie. And then after having conversations with Andy and Doug and their teams, it was like a no-brainer. Because it's constant brand awareness for us. We're in every single episode, and we're not only in every single episode, we're associated with Blackstone, their customer base, their loyal fan base, which is amazing, but we're also up there with the other brands that are in the episodes, right, that are sponsored in this TV show. And those are brands that we aspire to be like. They're household names. We've talked about Mission, we've talked about Graza. Safe Catch you probably didn't even know what Safe Catch is or who we are until today, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it after this. But now you have some type of awareness, right? You're gonna Google us, you're gonna find us on Instagram, you're gonna find us on Facebook, whatever platform you're on that you go to, all because you watched this TV show. And talking to Andy earlier, he was like, we're not going to stop, right? Like, this is going to continue to air, whether it's going to live on YouTube or it's going to be syndicated somewhere else for years to come. So not only was it an initial investment for us, we're seeing residual audience build for this year, next year, and so on. And so it just makes sense that from a cost perspective, from a brand side, to invest a little for a lot long term.
So here's a big thing that this show aired last week for the first time, and we had spontaneous content creation. Not a paid influencer, not someone who was given product. People went to the store, bought the product, and produced content around the brands in the show. So Pimento Cheese Smash Burger, within 12 hours, it was launched. It had 13,000 views in 24 hours. That is spontaneous content creation coming off of a show that is brand integrated, airing out and growing your social presence and through this community. you start to see these things that the Italian smash burger was created. Beautiful video, by the way, when you see this one. This guy really did a nice job on the content. And then another one did a master smash burgers because Blackstone is affiliated with the PGA. So he goes in his backyard, he drops a Swiden Sons, which was one of the brand integrated in the show, does a hit, throws it up on the Blackstone, makes a funny little thing, it goes wild. The growth that you see here when you're talking about 1,900% website traffic growth on the launch day, 3.5 times Instagram impressions by day 3, 23,000% organic growth in the first 3 days. I'm not under any illusion that we're going to hold the 23,000% growth on a constant basis, but can you imagine if you could? Like, imagine it if that happens every week and we start to see that engagement with each episode, and then you have 30 episodes running out across this. What does it mean for the brand? What does it mean for your sales? What does it mean for your activation? And what does it mean when we start talking about a QR code driving back to Gusto, and then ultimately back to the brand? What does it mean, that connection between the network, the brand, the show, and all of that?
A lot. I mean, it not only is it for us, eyeballs on our product, eyeballs on the recipe. That's what I loved about this. It's a partnership, right? So they're getting eyeballs from their show to your website, but you're also promoting us in a non-promotional way. So in order to make that recipe, you need safe catch. Like, if you're going to make it the way that Nate and CJ created it to be, correct? And so, from a brand's perspective, any way that we can show eyeballs and traction is great for us. And so I think that that's an added bonus from a brand, that you're getting not only a call to action from that space, but we can turn around and we can sell it to do it again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about relationships and association. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example. There's a dairy brand that we did a test with. We were doing a show, and they were trying to figure out how many integrations do we get? How often are you going to use milk? How often are you going to use butter? And everybody's got milk and butter in the door of their fridge, right? So we put their milk and we put their butter in the door of the fridge. And every time that fridge was opened up, whether they went for the butter or the milk or not, you saw those logos. It was a representation by association. Mm-hmm. And they loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. It's as long as you're not compromising the creative of the program, mm-hmm. as long as you can look at it. And the other thing about the creative of the program, for those of you who are in brands, okay, this show is going to live on Gusto for at least 5 years. At least 5 years. So now we've got it in, primetime premiering and everything like that, but we're looking for evergreen shows that will hold up and still be entertaining two annual cycles from now. So,
I would hazard to say that next year, because Blackstone's our client, have been for a long time, and we've cultivated this organic story. But I would imagine next year for Griddle Week, which is a completely invented event that sells more griddles than Black Friday. I would imagine for Griddle Week next year, Blackstone's going to want to call Gusto and say, hey, Gusto, let's do a stunt on Saturday. Give me 6 hours and let's do a Griddle Week event. So that's what it starts to lead to for the network as well. The network involvement suddenly has the brands wanting to say, what do I do for more activations? Because it works. It causes response. It is measurable. It is content measurable, not just in the engagement side of it, but in actual sales activations. So, like where we sit today, I think, I think I've been coming to this versions of this conference for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. But we've seen more shifts here because we're the direct-to-consumer marketers. We've seen the tea leaves before everybody else sees it. These are the new tea leaves because the networks don't know what to do to create content. Chris excluded. He makes his own content. He doesn't have a problem. But most networks don't know what to do to fill that slot and fill that time, and brands have a real opportunity to expand inside the space. So, but it is, I'm going to ask you, Doug, it really is about, it's not just content, it's a system, right? Yep. Because you got to think about everything you're already doing. You need to make sure when you're putting this content out there that you're cultivating your calls to action, that you're triggering response the right way. You know all the pieces. Why does it matter that the system is so important to make it operate right?
Yes, I want to go back to the watchability of the show because Chris nailed it. I mean, that is the connecting the dots is when the brand can connect the dots on that show's going to live on because it's watchable. It's going to live on forever because it's not visible, it's watchable. And so the key is to get the brands to cross over into that thinking and to understand that that's extremely important. And then moving into this system, which by the way, the branded entertainment helps everything else you're doing. Andy mentioned you're still doing short form, we're still doing long form, we're still doing, we're still doing other things around the product. The branded entertainment indirectly is going to help lift all of it. So, and we have assets from that, so they're going to be able to leverage the assets and utilize the assets of the program as well. And now we have this full ecosystem that they're fitting into, and now I know we're moving to this, but it moves to commerce.
Yeah. And also think of it as like long tail theory. I don't know if everybody, Wired put this thing out years ago, right? This truly is an extension of long tail theory because you are continually dialing in your consumer. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit because, well, I usually verbose in these things and ask too many questions. So real quick, what's the model? Watch the show, scan the QR, engage, hit the website, make a purchase, repeat. I will tell you with 100% certainty, in certain brands that we work with, if I get them to buy the product the first time and I get them to engage post-sale with 4 pieces of content, they spend 126% of their first purchase. That changes the metrics of how we look at performance in DR. And most people aren't paying attention to their underlying organic content and their organic content engagement when we're dealing with a performance arc. The performance arc gets better, and you can flatline your media spends if you have effective organic content spiking and engaging the right way, because you flatline your spend, but your organic content engagement continues to go up. That's why we said, hey, let's turn this on to television, and let's see where these opportunities are, and it's working. So that's the important part when we come to the backside of it. What brands can expect, and then I want to open the floor to questions, what brands really want from the next generation of content, and we've talked a lot about this. Authenticity first. You guys have heard it. Honesty was your line against that. Measurable ROI. Who wants measurable ROI in the room? I think everybody in the room. Multi-platform activation. You cannot think of one channel. Just like you're doing mixed media modeling on your ad buys, you have to think about your content distribution across all platforms. And then what's the holy grail? First party data across it. So, and then ultimately, as we all want, as a direct path to purchase. So I'm opening the floor up. There's lots of factors that come into these things, but let's discuss. Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
Hi, Greg Smith, Stream Vantage. I'm curious, kind of, just back to that last slide, kind of the tracking part.
Yep.
Chris talked about the QR code to get the recipes. I'm curious, Kelsey, how do you folks actually track back to transaction and really get to the point where you can measure that ROI? And is there more than one way to do that?
I think there is multiple ways to do that. So for my brand specifically, we focus predominantly on retail in store. Our e-com is not as robust. We just launched into frozen, and when you watch the episode, you'll see that. And so we're focusing predominantly, secondarily, from the recipe side to push them in store. So as Andy had mentioned, we see this uptick. We see our socials start to grow. We see those impressions, and ultimately, this is an awareness ploy for us, right? So if we can get a $10 CPM on impressions, we see that as a win. And then down the road, we know that you may not purchase the first time that you watch the episode, but you're going to continue to hopefully still see our efforts, our marketing efforts on different platforms as you start to become that customer side. So yes, is it ROI on a purchase? We would love that. That's not our ultimate goal. Yes, we want you to go in store and purchase, but tracking an in-store purchase to the episode is not our main priority. But like I said, we do start to see and will see an uptick in impressions and awareness-driven marketing efforts. And then at the end of the year, we'll look back and say, okay, what did we do in this time frame, 6 weeks or 3 months from there, that we did on whether it's Griddle Nation and our marketing efforts there, and then attribute it back to a potential sale.
And I think a big point here is, one, it depends on how sophisticated you are in the tracking side of it. For instance, with Blackstone, we've got full transparency of data. So I can tell you the point of sale data effects. I can tell you what's happening in the e-commerce platforms. I can tell you what's happening across all the marketplaces. And I can look at all their social platforms and how they're increasing engagement. So one is you're measuring that first funnel of engagement and seeing how it's responding. And if you're getting that lift, then you can properly predict with enough data what the ROI on that return is going to be. And because there's direct calls to action in the commercial inserts, remember that 2 minutes I talked to you about, the 2 or 4 minutes, or even 8 minutes in the carve-off? All that are actionable commercials that we can drop inside and around the show that are calling specific offer actions that are directly measurable.
Yeah, question is, with an infomercial, you get a good infomercial, and as everyone knows, you run it for as long as people respond favorably. Yes. So it seems like a challenge with this model with 30 episodes. It's a lot to produce. So what happens if episode 3 becomes a hit? Can you re-air that to keep it going for your brand sponsors, or are you just doing one airing and wait for the next show?
How many airings do you think this series will have in that lifetime?
Oh, in the lifetime? Yeah. Good God. Thousands.
Thousands upon thousands upon thousands.
Also, I'm going to comment on carve-off for a second, because you have a really unique situation. Carve-off, you have a franchise potentially, because you have episodic hooks. You're leaving people, they're coming back. Mm-hmm. They want to watch it. And they want to watch season 2, and they want to watch season 3. So you have longevity with these programs. And again, it's all led with, I want to watch the show. People aren't waking up again every morning saying, I want to watch a commercial. They want to watch the show.
We have time for one more? All right.
On the creative side of things, so if you're going from infomercials or something like this, it's a very different model in terms of creative. What's the process to design something that's entertaining first? How do you get there?
It's a great question.
Really good question.
And I think from a show, I'll have you field how do you create a good series first.
Well, unlike an infomercial where you start with the product and then you build a show out around it, we build a show and then we invite you to participate in the show. We're going to make it anyway. And we're going to remain solid and true to that creative. And your relationship with the show comes as part of it. Now, if we can get to a brand early enough, I'm happy to sit down with the brand and say, tell me what's keeping you up at night. Tell me what your marketing editorial subtext is going to be for 2027. If we can weave some of that into the show, again, without hitting people over the head with it, we're happy to do that. If you're a farmer, or if you're a canner and you do tomatoes and you do red peppers, and what you want to get across, because you found that women are worried about health and everything, that there's more vitamin C in a red pepper than there is in an orange. And you're going to buy pages in magazines and you're going to buy short form stuff like that. I'm happy to put that several times into the course of a show because it's interesting. It's a little bit of a tidbit that you can go to your next Griddle Nation backyard barbecue and say, hey, did you know there's more vitamin C in a red pepper than there is in an orange?
So, and another example of going that path as well, I won't announce the celebrity chefs that we're doing shows with coming up. But in each of those, they're celebrity chefs with their own product lines that need to continue to sell. And when they look over at QVC facing imminent danger, and they have healthy businesses that are sitting there, They say, how do I go down this path and continue to be relevant? So in one sense, to answer you, you create a show and you create the infomercials. So they both have a place. The show is about cultivating the relationship, cultivating community, building the product integrations inside of it so people come and activate in a cost-effective way so you lower your overall cost per acquisition. You still, if you have an infomercial that's working and it's hitting your metrics, run the damn infomercial, run it a lot. Call us at Bluewater, we'll help you place it, it'll be great. Or we'll produce it for you, for that matter. But building that whole architecture inside of it where you have shows, infomercials, short form, supporting all the way back through a vertical integration to where you're making sure your story is being told across all platforms, that's the key. This is just really the top funnel of branded entertainment and getting people inside that funnel in an organic and authentic way.
Can I just say a quick thing about short form content versus long form on television? We do a ton of short form content. We're on all the different platforms and everything like that. The trend is moving in the opposite direction on TV. Our best performing shows are an hour long. And if you look at the way AMC, for instance, right now is programming, they'll program 4 episodes of CSI back to back to back to back to back. The viewing patterns are changing significantly. We're now packaging 4 half-hour shows of the same show together, and our viewership is higher.
That's why we did the 30-show run. That's why we're doing 10-show minimum runs, because of the frequency of airing. If you can take over a Saturday morning, have the infomercial before it and show after it, wouldn't that be great? QR codes are up here, guys, so anybody that wants to connect with everybody, this is a response mechanism. You're supposed to use it. You can take a picture and scan it later if you want, but we should have put a steak cut up there so they would all scan.
That's true.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, team. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.